There are so many awesome and unique things you can find on Paradise Island. So in this video, we are going to be covering 13 of the things you should definitely pick up on your first visit to Paradise Island. So let's jump right into it. The first thing we're going to do as soon as we land on Paradise Island is actually turn around and get back on your ship, get back on the incognito, as there's an awesome unique weapon you can get as soon as you finish the prologue. If you go into the locker room here on the incognito, there's going to be a weapon behind glass. Unfortunately, it will say that we need 11 in lockpicking, which is absolutely insane. However, luckily there is going to be a hidden method we can use to get this right away. All we need to do is jump behind the boxes in the same locker room and we'll see a switch on the wall. If we pull this switch, we'll open the glass and we can get this for free. This weapon is going to be the rookie's reward. And the reason it's so great to get this early on is because this weapon has a unique mod that the more it shoots enemies, the higher level it gets and the better and better it gets throughout the game. So if you get this right from the beginning, it can become an absolute beast as you progress through the game if you use it enough. The second thing you should definitely get as soon as you land on Paradise Island is going to be the double jump. To get this, all we need to do is go slightly to the west of the Fairfield, which is the main town you'll see when you arrive here on the planet. And there's going to be a lift. If you do have high enough engineering skills, you can just fix the lift and take it to the top. If you don't have high enough engineering skills, don't worry. You can simply jump to the left of the rocks and sort of climb your way around this lift until you get to the top. Now, this will lead you to an area called the Sovereign's Sweet Spire Grove. As soon as you arrive here at the Spire Grove, if you look at the platform high up, you'll notice an NPC jumps from the top. Now this NPC thinks that they will survive the jump because they have some special boots on. Now unfortunately that's not exactly how it goes. Let's just say that if they ever do make another sequel, this specific NPC will definitely not be making a comeback. Anyway, once this NPC does reach the floor, you can go up and inspect the body. This will start a side quest called A Final Death for Gravity. For the double jump, you don't even need to complete this side quest. All you need to do is, after they introduce the side quest, is inspect the body again, and you'll notice the corpse has an item called the P-A-L-E, Pale. These are going to be the thruster boots, so as soon as you loot these from the body, you have access to the thrust jump, double jump, whatever you want to call it. So you can continue jumping up and finishing this side quest if you wish to. However, for the double jump, all you need to do is start the quest and then loot them from the corpse. Another quick task I would definitely recommend doing as soon as you possibly can is going to be the one called A Sprat to Die For. To find this task, go to the camp slightly south of the bridge. Here we're going to find an NPC called Commander Torres. Then if we mention Scrabbles, he'll send us out to search for this stuffed toy called Scrabbles. This can be found in the minefields slightly further north from here, where we're showing you in the gameplay. Be careful with the mines on the ground as they do an insane amount of damage. So while we're following that pathway here in the gameplay, let's quickly explain why you really want to get this as soon as possible. Other than the standard rewards you get from this quest, you also get a hidden secret perk. What this perk does is going to give you an extra 5% bits earned from containers every single time you collect them. Back to the actual quest, this is where you can actually find the stuffed animal right here next to this corpse in the minefield. So once you've picked up Scrabbles, all you need to do is take it back to Commander Torres, and that will put an end to this task, and you'll get this hidden perk we just mentioned, and I'll show you here on screen so you can quickly see the description in-game. There is also going to be another hidden secret perk we can get from this planet. This hidden perk is going to be called Serial Fanatic, and what this one does is it's going to reduce the companion ability charge time by 15%, so essentially the abilities of your companions will have less cooldown. To obtain this hidden perk, we need to find all 10 of the Science Adventures Quarterly that are hidden around the Paradise Island. We already have a video uploaded on the channel showing you the location of all 10 of the magazines if you do need help finding them. Then once you do have all 10 of the Science Adventures Quarterly, simply take them to this NPC we're showing you right here on the screen. And you do have to hand in 1, then 4, then the final 5. Once you hand them all in, you'll get this hidden perk, again along with some other rewards. Now most, if not all players, are going to be struggling for ammo quite a bit near the start, so it's definitely important to have a decent melee weapon for when you have no ammo. Luckily for us, there's actually a really good melee weapon we can get on this planet. It's going to be called the Thunderstruck. To get the Thunderstruck, what we need to do is come over here to the northwestern side of the map to a building called the Skycutter A102. As soon as we get inside in the first room, we'll notice there's a locked door. To get the key to this door, all we need to do is continue going down the stairs, and there'll be a corpse in the right corner, and he is going to have the key card to open this first door. So there's no need to waste any of your lockpicks. Now I should mention that before you pick up this key, there are going to be 2 enemies that will ambush you in this room. We don't have them in our gameplay as we cleared them out beforehand to make this a bit more smooth and quickly, but definitely be wary of those. Anyway, once you use this key to get into the main portion of the Skycutter building, there's going to be a bunch of enemies in this next room as well. However, to make this video a lot quicker, we're just going to run past all of those, and you're going to follow the pathway we're taking here until we get to the top floor of this building. Now, in your own playthrough, I do recommend actually defeating all of these enemies on your way up, as when you get to the top, you need to interact with a terminal, and if you do still have enemies targeting you, it won't let you interact with the terminal, so then you have to come back down and actually defeat the enemies, so it's a lot better if you do just defeat them on the way up. Now that you are on the 6th floor of the Skycutter, there's going to be a lift and a terminal on the left. To use the terminal, we do need the lift keycard. The keycard can be found literally just a few steps to the right on the corpse by the lift. Activate this, and while we're waiting for the lift to come down, you will get attacked by a bunch of enemies. So survive a few waves until the lift arrives. Then take the lift to the 7th and final floor. Once you get outside, you'll actually be able to see the Thunderstruck, the melee weapon we're looking for, lodged into this electrified wall. However, because the wall is electrified, we won't yet be able to pick it up. What we need to do is pick up the schematics from the corpse, then use the schematics to activate the switch just a few steps forwards. This electrified melee weapon also has a bit of a projectile attack with its strong attack, or if you use the jump attack. You can also recruit Inez, which is going to be the companion you can get from Paradise Island. Now, depending on what choices you take during the story, you may get this one almost automatically, or you may completely miss it, depending on what you do. But you can actually recruit her pretty much from as soon as you land on the planet. All you need to do is first come over here to the Ministry of Accuracy, and then go inside and you'll see Inez fending off some enemies. Speak to her here, learn a bit about her story, and exhaust most of her dialogue. You can then fast travel to Fairfield, and you want to go in this building right here that looks a bit like a church. However, you won't really be able to interact with her until you advance into the main room at the end, which will start a cutscene with the two NPCs speaking to the one on the screen. Directly after this cutscene, Inez will get involved in this conversation. And here you can pretty much just straight up tell her that she should leave whatever job she's doing and come and join your squad. Now, this is the most simplified way of getting Inez. Obviously, you do have different variations of how you do this, depending on what choices you want to make. But here, when she does essentially agree to join, all you need to do is speak to her again by the doorway just before exiting this very same building, and you can officially recruit her to your team. Now that we're in Fairfield anyway, I do recommend checking out the shop that is literally just to the right of the building we just visited to recruit Inez. In the shop, they sell us a unique legendary pistol called the Rattler. The Rattler is also a really amazing revolver. There are so many good weapons on this first planet, it's really hard to decide which one you specifically want to choose. The only downside to the Rattler is that it does have a pretty slow reload time, but even with that, it's still a really good weapon. Before we completely depart from Fairfield, there is one more item that's pretty cool you can pick up from here. Well, let's call it unique more than cool, I suppose. If you go over here to the left of Fairfield near the entrance, there's going to be a scarecrow that holds one of the baseball cards in its hand, and it's also going to be wearing a bit of a bucket head. This bucket it's using for a helmet is going to be called the Battle Helm of Ptero Bane. And while it may look a bit goofy, it actually has a unique mod that's called Incognito, which says that if you are standing completely still with its helmet on, you can't be seen by enemies. Honestly, I haven't really tried this out enough to tell you if it's actually any good or not. It's just a pretty cool, unique item to have. While you're wearing it, you can also see from like the inside of the bucket, and you can't go into third person mode while wearing it either, so it's definitely not something I'd walk around the entire game with, but hey. Now that we're on the topic of unique helmets, there's going to be another one called the Malpractice. This one can be found down here in the mysterious cave. The Malpractice I can definitely see having more use than the previous one. This one's unique mod says that you get a 20% damage increase while crashing. Now, crashing on this game is when you overheal with the inhaler and you sort of get intoxicated or whatever. So essentially, while you're crashing, you'll get a 20% damage increase, and this can even go all the way up to 40 as it scales with your medical skill. The next thing we definitely want to be picking up is the Plasma Grenade Recipe. To find the Plasma Grenade Recipe, all we need to do is go into the Crabble Spawning Grounds, which is found right here where we're showing you in the gameplay, and then we're going to advance through the first section of the cave until we come out onto a bit of a beach area. Then we're going to go into the second portion of the cave and then climb up to the right as if it was turning back to go back to the start. And eventually here we'll see a rift. Now when you can see this rift is where you're going to drop down to the right into the small building. Inside this building is going to be a safe. To get the code to open the safe, all we need to do is interact with the computer on the right hand side here in the same building, then simply search for the dialogue choice that mentions the safe combination. Once you've read this, you don't need to memorize the code, you can simply go up to the safe and then open it automatically. And inside here is where we can find the Plasma Grenade Recipe so we can craft as many plasma grenades as we want. Also, now that we're in this cave, if you backtrack just slightly up to where you've seen the rift and go back to the left into the second part of the cave, you can also find another unique armor called the Scoundrel's Aegis. Personally, I wouldn't come in this cave just to get this unique armor, but if you're in here anyway for the recipe, you may as well pick this up as well. If we head down to the Euphoria Coast Automech Repair Center at the southeastern part of the map, there's going to be a shop here called Hansel's Automated Wares and Repairs. And this merchant is going to sell us another really good weapon called the Zyraniator. The Zyraniator is an amazing pistol, especially against enemies that have a lot of health, as what the mod essentially does is that the more you shoot a specific enemy with it, the more powerful it gets against that specific enemy. So against bosses and stuff like that, this is really going to reduce the amount of time it takes you to kill them. Heading a bit further north here to the Bridge of the Reverend, inside the armory of the bridge, we're going to find a really cool armor that's called the Bomb Suit. There are multiple methods you can use to get into the armory. However, the most simple and straightforward way would simply be by getting the armory keycard. To get the keycard, it's actually found very close by. Simply exit out of the building where you see the armory and cross the bridge to the other side, and there'll be a small office. If you go inside this office and then look to your left from the door, you'll be able to see the keycard on the desk. So then simply use this keycard to get into the armory, and here you'll be able to find the bomb suit. This is extremely resistant against explosives, as you might imagine, and it can be really useful if you plan on walking around that minefield. The 12th thing you want to keep your eye out for, and this one is missable, so you definitely want to make sure that you pay attention that when you get to the Vox Relay, which is the final objective of the main story on this planet, there's going to be a boss near the end. When you defeat this boss, he is going to drop a weapon called the Chainspark cannon. This unique weapon is pretty amazing, but it's also very missable, so be careful. Once you defeat him, as soon as he drops, you want to make sure you go over and loot his body, as you will not be able to re-enter here later on. Now for the 13th and final thing I would recommend doing before ending the story on this planet, I'm going to give you a pretty long spoiler warning here, so if you definitely don't want to know anything about the story, or you don't really care about the consequences for your choices, you just want to go with it and roleplay, I recommend clicking away from this video now, as the last one is going to cover a bit of a spoiler for the end of the story of this planet. However, the consequences for that specific decision we're talking about can be quite, well, consequential, and it's going to make certain things missable and stuff like that. So if you don't care too much about story spoilers, and you just really don't want to screw up any decisions to sort of miss out on too many things, I would recommend watching this final tip as well. Okay, so if you're still watching this, I'm assuming you don't care too much about the spoilers, but when you get to the end of the Vox Relay, you have to make a decision of where you want the missile pretty much to go. So depending on what side quest you did previous to actually get into the Vox Relay, you'll be able to choose whether you want to send the missile to Westport or to Fairfield. Now, this can have some pretty serious consequences. One of them can even make it so that Inez leaves the party forever. But there is actually a way to direct this missile so it doesn't go to any of those locations, and you can send the missile to space so nothing really gets destroyed. But for this, you do need to make sure that when you get to this final room before the boss, that you have your hack level on at least level 4, and also have a bypass shunt. Now, bypass shunts you can get from a bunch of places. You can even buy them from quite a few of the shops. So make sure you have at least one of those in your inventory, and at least level 4 in your hack skill. This way, once the alarm goes off at the end of the Vox Relay and you have to evacuate, you can go back to the terminal that you used previously, and you have an option here that says set destination space. So you definitely want to do this so neither Westport nor the Fairfield gets destroyed. Anyway guys, there are definitely a bunch more things you can grab on Paradise Island, so definitely leave in the comments down below anything that you found that you feel like you should definitely pick up on the first planet. So I hope you did find this video helpful. If you did, don't forget the thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.